Yeah! Here we go now, baby. Right back into the action for another day of the week. Welcome to the Monday edition of Before You Bet, Aaron live right here on the Covers YouTube and X channels. If you're watching on YouTube, smash that like and that subscribe button right down there. A lot of great content up on the Covers YouTube channel right now, including a preview for the college football playoff that I did with Brad Powers and Jake Butt last week. Check that out to see who the guys like to win the whole damn thing, and a lot of other stuff in there as well. Okay, so a great big show planned for you guys today. We have a Monday Night Football doubleheader going down tonight. I usually don't like these things when they have the two Monday night games going on at the same time. For some reason tonight, I'm looking forward to it. Maybe it's because the games aren't that great, but I think some pretty good-looking betting opportunities in these Monday Night Football games here tonight. So I have 4 total picks for those games. Brad Powers will be here right after the NFL segment of the show. We're going to take a look at the 4 bowl games taking place between Tuesday and Thursday. He also has a couple of best bets to add for some bowl games that are taking place later this month, even one taking place in January. And then the third segment of the show, our very own Jon Metler will be by. He and I have our 5 best bets for the NBA here tonight. Okay, guys, so I am flying solo off the top here today. Jingles is sick. He's not feeling well. So he is home resting. So we give him the day off so he can get back into top form here. The holiday season is here. We need our guy healthy. So Jingles, if you are watching, get well soon, buddy. So with that said, I need someone to converse with until Brad gets here. So guys, hit up that live chat. What is your best bet here in these Monday Night Football games? Is there anything you like in the NBA? Drop it in the live chat on YouTube, on X, and I will read a few off throughout the course of the program. Okay, let's start like we always do on the Monday show. A little bit of a recap of what we saw yesterday, our biggest winners and biggest losers. Let's start positive. The biggest winners in the NFL yesterday. A lot of people might say the Buffalo Bills. I'm saying the Philadelphia Eagles for a couple of different reasons here. So they put that narrative to bed. Last week, we saw A.J. Brown call out the offense. I thought it was a gigantic red flag considering how badly the wheels had fallen off for the team last season. Not the case at all. They had one of their best games of the season yesterday. Tough matchup against the Steelers. They never trailed in that game once. They held Pittsburgh to 163 total yards of offense. More importantly, though, no issues with A.J. Brown. 8 catches for 110 yards. And they're setting themselves up very nicely to get that number 1 overall seed here in the NFC. The Lions falling apart a little bit here. So here's who remains for the Philadelphia Eagles. Commanders, Cowboys, Giants. That's a lot easier than what the Lions have left. They have the Bears. They stink. Then they go to San Francisco, and then they play the Vikings. Eagles might end up with that number 1 overall seed here in the NFC. My second biggest winner of the week, you got to go the Buffalo Bills here. They are the new favorite to win the Super Bowl after beating the team that was the favorite to win the Super Bowl, and that was a wire-to-wire beatdown. I think it's fair to say that they beat the shit out of the Lions on their home field. They led by 21 points with 3 minutes and 31 seconds remaining in the third quarter. 559 yards of offense led to 48 points for them. 30 or more points in 8 straight games for the Buffalo Bills. They're absolutely flying, and they have Patriots, Jets, Patriots remaining in their season. Likely not going to catch the Kansas City Chiefs, but it looks like the number 2 seed is certainly safe. And my third biggest winner of the week, I got to give these guys credit, and maybe this opinion is influenced a little bit on the fact that I had Davante Adams. I needed him to go over his receiving yard total, and he did. Aaron Rodgers and Davante Adams, they were fantastic in the second half of the game. You got to give them a little bit of credit here. So they connected on 9 catches, 12 targets, 198 yards, and 2 touchdowns, including a 71-yarder late in the fourth quarter. Now, this all seems positive on the surface, even though it was against the Jacksonville Jaguars. But here's the thing. You guys remember about a month ago when the wheels were really starting to fall off for the Jets, I said, you wait and watch. Late in the season, maybe they're going to get some sort of a spark. And then that will influence them and influence others out here. Say, hey, the Jets are finishing strong. And as a result of this, they're going to run it right back. And it's going to be a disaster again next season. You just watch. But yeah, you got to give them credit. They did look pretty damn good yesterday. Okay, quick check-in on the live chat. Yeah, Christopher O'Donnell. I'm going to get to that. A moment of silence for Commanders teaser holders, of which I was one. Ryan McGee in here, always looking for Brad. Brad is coming up here in a matter of minutes. Todd's in there. Yeah, the guy's checking in. Okay, my biggest losers of the week. The biggest loser of the week in the NFL was easily the Indianapolis Colts. What the fuck was that? That was a complete and total joke. Shane Steichen, we talk about head coaches that would make better coordinators. I don't think he's meant to be a head coach in the NFL. So they were in a position going into that game in Denver to really improve their chances of getting into the playoffs, taking on the team who was directly ahead of them in the playoff standing. So what did they do? 5 turnovers, including 2 of the dumbest turnovers you're going to see all season. Jonathan Taylor does that idiotic thing. Seems like we see this every week now in college or the NFL, where the guy's about to walk into the end zone untouched, but he drops the ball before crossing the line. Just a complete and total idiot. And then you have this stupid play design, throwing a bunch of reverses, leads to a pick 6. Occasionally you see a play that makes you laugh out loud in the NFL. That was certainly one of them. And Anthony Richardson, oh my God, I don't think it's meant to be. I know we gave him a nice pat on the back when he kind of corrected himself. He tapped out, then he got back into a game, played all right. But 2 interceptions. Once again, he can't even complete 50% of his passes. Just a complete and total joke. 2 pretty big losers yesterday. 2 Alabama quarterbacks, Bryce Young and Tua. So speaking of giving guys a big pat on the back, Bryce Young, hey, he turned the corner. Look at him. Good for him. We're going to prop him up. We got to kill him after the game he had yesterday. He looked like the guy that everyone was saying is one of the biggest busts in the history of the NFL yesterday. 2 picks, sacked 6 times. That's not entirely his fault, but he was very sloppy with the ball. He did complete 1 long one for 83 yards, which did make his day look a lot less worse than it was. And then, hey, what do you know? Tua on the road versus an above-average team. Shocking result, right, for the Miami Dolphins. 3 picks. The one at the end wasn't his fault, let's be fair, but still, 2 really bad picks. He had a fumble. His average pass went for a pitiful 4.9 yards. The Miami Dolphins, Mike McDaniel, throw him into this category of being a gigantic loser. I think they're 3-15 under McDaniel versus teams who are above 500. Tear it down. It's getting worse. It's not going to get any better for the goddamn Miami Dolphins. And 3rd biggest losers of the week, of which I am one, Commanders teaser bettors. I stopped short on the Friday show of saying that I thought the Commanders was the teaser leg of the season. Going into that game against the Saints, who are clearly in tank mode, some quarterback that most people have never even heard of. So 7.5-point favorite. Everyone would have teased them down to a 1.5, needed to win by 2. They were up 17-0 halfway through the 3rd quarter. Then, of course, we saw what happened. The Saints worked their way back into the game. And did you see what happened where the clock just stopped with 9 or 8 seconds remaining? It stopped for about 4.5 seconds, 4 seconds. And as a result of that, they get the ball back, score to make it 20-19, and they go for 2. And as they're going for 2, you're doing that thing in your head saying, no matter what happens here, I'm completely fucked if you're on that side with the teaser. So that was a rough one. And did you see what the referees said? They announced that the referee simply made a mistake and he accidentally stopped the clock with 9 seconds left. Where do I file criminal investigation against a clock operator in the Washington-New Orleans game? From Jeff. That was a referee, and that was the excuse. He accidentally stopped the clock. Now, I don't know, had he not, would the Saints be able to get to the line? It would have been very close, but that was a bad beat. That one felt very badly. Okay, 4 quick picks here for the Monday Night Football games tonight. Then on to Brad Powers, who is patiently waiting in the green room. Let's first start in Minnesota, where the Chicago Bears are in town. A couple props for this one for wide receivers. Let's start with Justin Jefferson, his longest reception over 25.5 yards. Check out the opponent. The Chicago Bears get beat for a lot of long passes. They have allowed the 7th most pass plays of 20-plus yards this season. Check out Jefferson at home. He's topped this in 5 of 6 games at home this season and in 10 of 13 games overall. And the man thrown to him, Darnold Dimes. He likes to toss those balls up. He is tied for the league lead in pass attempts of 20-plus air yards this season. Check a couple up to our guy and let him cook. So Jefferson over 25.5 for his longest reception is absolutely electric when these bets hit. Next up, I think a short number here, too short of a number. DJ Moore, I like him to go over his receiving yard total of 56.5 yards. He's had some pretty good games here against the Vikings over the past year and change. Had 106 yards against them a couple of weeks ago. Last season in Minnesota, he had 114, 18 total catches in those games. He's gone over this number in 3 of his last 4 games. Might surprise you to hear. We think of the Minnesota Vikings as this really good defensive team, and yeah, they are pretty good, but they've allowed the 3rd most yards to wide receivers this season, an average of 192.3 yards per game, 2 wide receivers, and the targets have remained consistent for Moore despite Chicago's ups and downs. He is averaging 9.5 targets per game since the Bears changed their play caller. Next up, who's paying to go see the Atlanta Falcons take on the Las Vegas Raiders? I wonder if Brad's going to that game. He lives in Las Vegas. Probably not. How much would you pay to get in? Would you pay $150 for a decent ticket to see the Falcons Raiders tonight? I don't think I would. I'd pay $100 to sit 50-yard line. What do you guys say? Hit up the live chat. Let me know. Okay, best bets for this game. This one is a bit of a trend play, some stats to back it up. So Falcons Raiders first half over 22.5, a bit of a weird bet. Hear me out. Check out the trend. The teams are a combined 10-1 to the first half over when Las Vegas is playing at home and Atlanta is playing on the road. Atlanta ranks 31st in first half points allowed. Las Vegas is 28th in this category when playing on their home field. Just a big-time fade of both these defenses here. Each is awful on 3rd down and in the red zone, among the worst in the league in both of those categories. Both defenses do struggle to pressure the quarterback. Atlanta, the fewest sacks in the NFL this season. Atlanta is also dead last in completion percentage allowed, so I think that's going to give a pretty nice boost to whoever is starting at quarterback for the Raiders tonight. And then I think that's a bit of a weirdo bet. Not so much for this one. Bijan Robinson. I like him to go over his receiving yard total of 27.5 receiving yards. So this is hitting 6 of 7 games, 6 of his last 7, I should say, for an average of 34.28. Now he's coming off a season low 9 yards last week. And I do like him to bounce back quite a bit. This is a guy who has a very high ceiling for a running back as far as receiving yards goes. He's gotten into the 40s on 5 occasions already this season, taking on a Raiders team. They're not awful against running backs in the passing game, but they're not good either. They do allow 30.3 receiving yards per game to running backs. His snaps are on the rise, too. He's just getting more work as the season has gone on. 61 or more snaps in 3 of his last 4 games. Bijan Robinson, over 27.5 receiving yards. Checking in on the chat. Joe, the helmet is behind you. I know. Those damn Dolphins. I don't know how I do it. I'm in my 40s now, and these teams, the Blue Jays and the Dolphins, do nothing but disappoint me. Penguins in hockey, but I'm not as big of a hockey fan as I am football and baseball. Okay, so that's it for Monday Night Football. Jon Metler will be by with the crazy same-game parlay after we talk to Brad. But let's go down to our guy in sunny Las Vegas. Brad, how much would you pay to sit on the 50-yard line of the Falcons-Raiders game tonight? Say, I don't know, 15, 20 rows up.
I wouldn't pay to watch the Falcons and the Raiders. I wouldn't watch them play if they're playing in my backyard. You could pay me to go to the game tonight, and I wouldn't go. I don't like the Raiders crowd. Too many fights. I don't like going to NFL games, and I don't like the Raiders, don't like the Falcons. So no, I wouldn't go, even if you paid me to go to the 50-yard line.
Yeah, I would close my blinds if they were playing in my backyard. Absolutely, that is not a pretty game, but that's why we bet, right? Okay, so pretty straightforward.
Oh, and I'm with you also on the Washington. That was my teaser of the week. I thought it was one of my favorite teasers of the year. That was gut wrenching. Are you kidding me? I cannot believe what happened at the end of it. I can't believe it even came down to it to begin with. I'm with them up 17.
They're not a serious team. They took their foot off the gas. They should have tried. Just keep scoring. And I had Daniels over on his longest completion, and they just took their foot right off the gas. But that's how you know it's like a young team. And Dan Quinn, what do you expect out of Dan Quinn, though, right? So
yeah.
And I stopped short. All week I was looking at that and I'm thinking, this is the teaser spot of the year. This is absolutely beautiful. This team coming off their bye against the Saints, who got nothing to play for, interim head coach, a fourth string quarterback who no one's ever heard of. And that is the way she goes sometimes in this crazy betting world. Okay. So, yeah, with your appearances during bowl season, it's going to be pretty efficient. If there's anything notable going on in terms of news, obviously we'll kick that around, but we're going to rip through all of these games, get your thoughts, see if you have any best bets or leans. So we have 4 games coming up between tomorrow and Thursday, and Brad also has a couple of best bets to add after we get into these. So let's get into these, starting with this game tomorrow, Memphis, West Virginia. West Virginia is a 5-point dog, total of 59 in this one. Memphis on a pretty good run straight up, 7-1 straight up in their last 8 games. What do you make of this matchup?
Yeah, I'm going to lean with Memphis here. Big line move so far with West Virginia with an interim coach. They fired their coach, so there's always that substitute teacher effect. Not sure how motivated you're going to be playing Memphis in a bowl game. They had a lot higher preseason expectations. Their preseason expectations were to compete for the Big 12 title. So I think they're a little disappointed. Meanwhile, Memphis trying to close it out. Their all-time leading passer, Seth Hennigan, this will be his final game. He's playing, 20 minutes from where he grew up. So I expect a motivated Memphis team here. Line value's not there. That's why it's just a lean on Memphis minus the points.
Okay, next up, let's go to Wednesday's games. We got 2 of them, starting with the Boca Raton Bowl. Western Michigan, James Madison, who's favored by 6.5, a total of 51.5. Now, both teams trending pretty heavily towards the under coming into this game. What do you make of this one?
Yeah, it's a typical bowl game in today's day and age. So Western Kentucky's got no less than 10 starters in the transfer portal. Some of them are going to play, though, including their starting quarterback, Veltkamp, who's in the portal, but yet is going to still start for this game. So a lot to sift through there. On the other side, James Madison, starting quarterback, is out. So I'm going to combine the 2 pieces of information. We're going to go under 52. I don't expect an optimal offensive performance from JMU. Western Kentucky's defense is a little underrated. And then I don't know who's playing or not for Western Kentucky. So let's keep it simple. Pizza bet under 52.
Okay, some big news coming from Adam Schefter here. David Montgomery, running back for the Lions, potentially to be lost for the season.
Wow.
That's a massive hit for them. That team is falling apart right now. A sprained MCL, and not as important, but Desmond Ridder will get the start for the Raiders here tonight. I don't think it matters who is starting for the Raiders here tonight. So that absolutely sucks for the Lions. Okay, so you're on the right side of the line moving for the Art of Sport LA Bowl, hosted by Gronk, California, UNLV. Current line has UNLV favored by 1. A total of 48. Now, you gave out as a best bet under a 50.5 for this on Friday. What do you think of the line move? What do you make of the matchup here?
Yeah, under was the best bet for a variety of reasons. Number one, California starting quarterback's out, and the backup is not pass happy. So they're going to completely change their offensive schemes. They got a new offense coordinator. They're going to go rush heavy. So that leads towards the under. UNLV also has an interim coach. And there's question marks on how dialed in their offensive coordinator is going to be for this game because he's interviewing for other jobs. So add those 2 pieces of info together. I got under. Would I still have it as a best bet at current number? No. I mean, 2.5 points is pretty substantial with an already, below average total. So if you're waiting now to watch it and want to bet it, more of a lean than anything.
Okay, last but not least, on Thursday we have the RL Carries New Orleans Bowl. Georgia Southern taking on Sam Houston. Not a big time matchup by any
Yeah.
means, but people like to bet though, Brad. You know that. Sam Houston is a 6-point dog. Total on the low end of 48.5. Now, 6 straight unders for Sam Houston coming into this one. 5 of those failed to cross 40 points. What do you think of this one from a betting perspective?
Yeah, I hear you as far as the under, certainly lean that way, but I prefer Georgia Southern the side. This is another bowl game with an interim coach. Sam Houston's coach is off the tempo. So what does that lead to? 10, 12 players for Sam Houston in the portal, starters in the portal already. Some are expected to play, some aren't. We'll go 50-50 on them with those players likely out. I'm going to trust the more proven commodity. The team, Georgia Southern, that you think, these are two bad teams. You look at the strength of schedule, couldn't be any bigger between two group of 5 teams. Georgia Southern played arguably one of the toughest strength of schedules among the group of 5. Sam Houston State plays in the weakest conference. So about 50 spots different in strength of schedule. So for me, I think that leads to some value here, plus the transfers on Georgia Southern -6.
Okay, let's get to a couple of best bets to add to your ledger here for bowl season. Let's go to the Independence Bowl on December 28th. Army is favored by 16.5 points over Louisiana Tech, and you like the big favorite here.
I do like the big favorite. Army just lost the Navy, so I think they'll get refocused here to try to finish their season off on a winning note. Now they're starting running back. He's a good ball player, did hit the portal. You don't normally see that with Army. I don't expect very many other Army players to be hitting the portal. Here's the unique thing about this game. Obviously, Army was supposed to play Marshall. Marshall had a bunch of guys opt out of the game, hit the portal. They had to, cancel the game. Can't play in the bowl game. So they get this opponent, Louisiana Tech, who's 5-7. Hadn't played in a couple weeks. I'm guessing some players went home. Obviously, several starters have hit the portal. I don't think they were thinking they were going to play a bowl game. They thought the season was over. You were in college, Joe. I was in college when the semester was over, season's over. Let's go have some fun. I'm sure that they weren't working out. Winter workouts don't start till January for the upcoming season. So I'm not sure that, this team's going to be in prime condition to play a game. And the worst opponent to play when you're not mentally, totally physically and mentally dialed in is a service academy. So I'm laying the big number here, Army -16.5.
All right, let's go Army. Speaking of big numbers, the First Responders Bowl on January 3rd has a total of 67.5. It's a battle of Texas, North Texas, Texas State, and you're going to take the under on the big number.
I am. 2 fast-tempo, offensive-driven teams. However, for everyone says, these are 2 dead nut over teams. Only 10 of the 24 combined games that these 2 teams have played have went over a total this high. On top of that, let's talk about where the real value is. North Texas starting quarterback, out, portal. This game is played in January, so there's no chance he's playing. He's at his other school of choice by January rolls around. The leading receiver for North Texas, out. Leading rusher for Texas State, out, portal. Both starting centers not playing in the portal. So you add all that together, plus neither team's played for 5 weeks. Everything offensive driven in college football today's day and age is on timing. And when you got multiple starters out, I don't think you're going to see 2 high functioning offenses to get over a total this high, the highest total in bowl season. So under for me, it's my favorite bet on the board right now.
Okay, there you have it. And we will leave it at that for today, Brad. But of course, you will be with us every single Monday and Friday throughout bowl season. And we got some big ones coming up on the weekend here. The first round of the playoff gets going. So you'll be right back with us on Friday to dig into those games again. Maybe a couple more best bets as well as more information starts to come out. So best of luck with all your handicapping, and we will catch you on Friday.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks for having me, Joe.
Yes, sir. And man, right there. Man, that sucks. David Montgomery out for the Lions. Let's bring in our guy Jon Metler and kick that around a little bit. Yeah, so the NFL, it's all about peaking at the right time, right? The teams, I know they only play 17 games, which is nothing compared to what they play in the NBA, Major League Baseball, and the NHL. But you will see teams who will go through growing pains at the right time. The Kansas City Chiefs last season, they were going through growing pains at this time last season when they were losing to the Raiders on Christmas Day. But of course, they were able to turn it around in the playoffs and, of course, go on to win the Super Bowl. So I don't know, man. These injuries, they're piling up against the Lions. And like I said, John, I don't know if you caught this off the top of the show, but things are shaping up pretty good here for the Philadelphia Eagles. These two teams are tied with a 10-2 or 11-2 records right now.
What about the Vikings?
And the Vikings too. Well, that's the thing. So the Eagles close out versus the Commanders, Cowboys, and Giants. The Lions, who are just starting to get decimated, Bears, 49ers, Vikings. And the Vikings, if they win tonight, Lions could end up with a third seed here, guys. So, everyone loves them. I love them.
The Vikings got to kind of smell blood in the water here, right? Like Bills beat the Lions yesterday. You're hosting the Bears tonight at home. They just announced David Montgomery's out. You're kind of eyeing, you have that last game of the year facing the Lions as well. It's the Lions have been like down this path of like number one seed, best team, all this, but now it's quickly starting to fall apart, right? For them, just injuries, and you kind of saw it coming, but they just kept winning and winning and winning. But the loss of David Montgomery, that's a huge part of their offense. It also helps Jahmyr Gibbs be more explosive, right? Because it's like two very different style running backs. So it's starting to get interesting here in the NFC.
Ooh, yeah, she's getting dicey here for the Lions. We'll see if they can overcome that. Okay, so we got some NBA to get into. I want to talk about Joel Embiid again. But a couple of weeks ago, when I was off on a Monday show, you came on and you hit a 20-1 same game parlay that you hit for us?
Yeah, it was 25-1. James
25-1 same game parlay. So Jingles is off today. And Metler, he's a team player. He wants to contribute to the Monday Night Football, the NFL segment of the show. And you have another monster for us. Let's see if we can do it again. Drop it for us.
Yeah, it did feel even more right to do this with Jingles out because it's 2 indoor games, and he literally preaches that all the time when it comes to NFL betting. So this is actually an SGP plus because I'm combining both games here. Both Monday night, I took 2 picks from Vikings Bears, 2 from Falcons Raiders. And I just went Justin Jefferson, 120 plus receiving yards, Justin Jefferson TD, Drake London, 80 plus receiving yards, Drake London TD. So I'm a Vikings fan. I watched almost all of their games. When they just played the Bears, Jordan Addison had a massive game. I think it was like 160 receiving yards, and Jefferson only had about 30. So I think initially people might lean more towards Addison, but they lost that game. So to me, like I could see that the Bears kind of running back that defensive strategy if they won, but they didn't. They lost. So it's probably easier for them to choke off Hawkins and Addison and just not worry about Jefferson. Obviously, you're still worried about him than to do the opposite. You don't want everyone else to go off. So that was kind of the basis of that. I did put 2 TDs here. I feel like if you're going after alt receiving yards, they probably busted one and they probably got a TD. So that's why I threw the 2 TDs in here for both players. And then just, Drake London, again, Kirk Cousins, you're struggling really, really bad. I mean, if I'm a quarterback and I'm struggling, I'm looking to my best receiver to fix that for me. And you're playing the Raiders. It feels very possible. Again, indoor game, 80 plus receiving yards. It's an alt. It doesn't really feel like a big number for the number one receiver there. So, and he's had a bunch of touchdowns as well this year. So we'll see. It's 22-1. It's another big number. You'll feel pretty good though if Jefferson gets that first part of it going into the second game.
Let's go, baby. Raiders. Okay. On to the NBA. Joel Embiid on the shelf again. There's always something with this guy, not totally his fault, but of course on Friday's show, if you guys caught it, I made a case for Joel Embiid going over his point total. It was 29.5 going against the Pacers, a team who is horrible defensively, a team that he had destroyed in the past. So I think he was at about maybe 12 points, 13, and I'm noticing he's not coming back into the game. And I'm thinking, what the hell is going on here? So I go on Twitter, and I see he got swatted across the face by a Pacers player, and he just went to the locker room and announced he's not coming back in. And now Embiid, he's set to miss the game here tonight. He has like a sinus fracture or something like that, which sounds awful. So I don't know. This isn't me calling Embiid soft or anything. Sometimes shit happens, right? But there's just always something with this guy. Something's got to give here. I think he's probably going to request a trade here at some point. Like, we need a bit of a change of scenery with Joel Embiid, don't you think? By now, it's getting out of control.
Yeah, it's such a weird. They've gotten caught, right? The 76ers have gotten caught in that. And when the season started, we're so good and the East is so bad, we can kind of rest our players, manipulate our schedule a little bit. And now it's like totally backfired because you've fallen so far back in the standings. Now he's like legitimately hurt. He's not just sitting out. The thing is, they're 6-7, I think 6-17 on the year, and like 10 wins would get you into the play-in tournament. So they're still kind of like right there in the East. Like you could be the 10 seed, get in, win 2 games, get into the playoffs and all that stuff. So they're not as far out of it. If they're in the West, it's like, this is over, your season's done. But it feels like it's not working. Like even the Paul George thing, it doesn't really feel like it's come together as like they would like it to. I know he's been injured and like in and out of the lineup and stuff like that. The 76ers are in just the weirdest spot. I think like, is everyone going to get fired? Is Daryl Morey going to get fired? Is Nick Nurse going to get fired for just like mismanaging this entire season? I don't know. It's because the thing is they can still save it, but like, and like, do you want Embiid's? Would you trade for Embiid's contract? It's like $70 million per year. They extended him, which I guess would be another reason to fire Daryl Morey. But I don't even know if you can trade him.
I wouldn't trade an all-star back for him if it's one of these dinky deals where it's, hey, here's 5 second-rounders, and if you're a team who's right there, maybe I guess, right? But the guy just keeps breaking down. I don't think I'd fire the head coach. I have real issues with Daryl Morey, though. I think he is just wildly overrated as a GM. All he does is bend over backwards for his players, and he gets nowhere. He got nowheres with the Houston Rockets, bending over for James Harden. He bended over for Harden again when he brought him to the Sixers. How'd that work out? How's it working out giving Embiid all this money, all this load management? Not very good.
They also lost on Friday. They lost Jared McCain as well. So like they lost McCain tore his meniscus, and he was the favorite for Rookie of the Year. So that's a big loss for them too. So they're just, I think like you said, I think Daryl Morey's more in the hot seat because he had draft picks and money, and he could have done things the last couple of years, and then he waited for Harris to fall off the books and then make his moves. And now it looks like you should have been making those moves 2 years ago when Embiid was healthier. So it kind of does look like he misplayed it from a management standpoint.
Yeah, and maybe he misplayed the whole James. I know James Harden accused him of being a liar. I don't know what the whole story is there, but it, neither side came out of that looking very good either. So, not a good look for Daryl Morey. Okay, so 5 picks in the NBA, 3 for this Pistons Heat game combined. Why don't you get us started? You have something for Bam before I get into my spread pick for the game.
Yeah, I went Bam Adebayo under 5.5 assists minus 130. So Adebayo, if you look at his last 10 games, he's gone over his assist total all 10 games. But this total has moved from 2.5 to 5.5. And like when you're talking about like assists and like 2.5, just even up to 3.5, that's a huge move. It is not the same as like a points total go from 20.5 to 21.5. So you're not only has it moved, it's moved 3. It's not moved 1 assist, it's moved 3. Like this is like Domantas Sabonis is trading at 5.5. Is Bam Adebayo just as good as a passer as Sabonis? I know he keeps going over this number, but even if you look at this 5.5 over those last 10 games, he'd only be 6-4 to the over on the 5.5. And I think what really popped when I was looking at this bet is so like even his last 5 games here, he's averaging 7.6 potential assists per game. So it's not like he's going way over and the potential assists are like really, really high. Like 7.6. And I need 6 to get over. That's a really tight when you're talking about these usually convert about, depends on the player, but like 45 to 55%. So you'd be hoping for like 12, 13 potential assists if you're looking playing the over. It just seems to me, it's gotten to the point where he keeps going over, but it's just pushed to too big of a number. So I'm going under on Bam Adebayo.
Okay, I'm going to take the Heat to cover the spread in this one, minus 4.5. So we know the rumors going on with Jimmy Butler, but Miami is playing great, despite the rumors that are going on here with Jimmy Butler potentially being on the move. Check them out over the last 5 games. They're 6th in the NBA in net rating. Some decent competition mix in there as well. They have straight up wins over both the Cavs and the Suns. And the Lakers. I don't know if you consider the Lakers to be decent competition these days. Meanwhile, the Pistons, they're starting to look a lot like the team who we thought they were. They had a decent start to the season for them, respectable, but they've since been awful. 3-8 ATS over their last 11 games. They're ranked 26 in net rating in that span. And Miami's offense has been lights out. So check out the last 5 games, the form of these teams. Miami is 5th in offensive rating, taking on a Pistons defense that is 26th in defensive rating. I like Miami to roll them tonight. Take them at -4.5. Next up, Cade Cunningham. What do you like for him?
Yeah, hopefully this game's just a blowout and both my unders win and the Heat killed them and you win and cover your spread. That would be the best case scenario here. I went Cade Cunningham under 9.5 assists. Very similar to Adebayo, where he's just ripped past his total recently and has pushed this number again. So he's had 2 games recently, 14 and 15 assists, massive assist games, jumped the total from 7.5 to 9.5. When you watch the film of the last time these two teams played, it was that NBA Cup game is where Eric Spoelstra got burned on the timeout with like 2 seconds left. Pistons sent overtime. He called the timeout. He didn't have all of those things. They played a ton of zone, and Cunningham had 9 assists, so he didn't even get over the total in that game. But his assists were like the Heat playing zone, and Cunningham was just feeding his shooters, and they were just wide open threes. And I just wonder if that's a strategy they'll use again. I know the Heat love to play zone defense, but I feel like you would be better off because they lost that game. So I think you'd be better off just making almost Cunningham create his own shot. You don't want him to get all his shooters involved. I think that's the better play against the Pistons. And the other thing I like too is, his lob threat, Jalen Duren, who would convert easy potential assists for him. He's being guarded by Bam Adebayo, his rim protection, arguably a player who could win Defensive Player of the Year. So that should kind of choke that off. So 9.5, I just thought the number was too higher. So I went under on Cade Cunningham.
Okay, my final pick of the show today, kind of a big spread for the Clippers. I'm not scared of the big number. Give me LA to cover as an 8-point favorite with the Utah Jazz in town. So this is a big-time desperation spot here for the Clippers, who are, an above-average team, I think is fair to say. But they do have 3 straight losses versus good teams coming into this game. They lost outright to Denver, Houston, in Minnesota. They've only been a favorite 8 times this season. Gone 6-2 against the spread in those games. Last time they played the Jazz, they pretty much beat the shit out of them. They were leading by 22 points entering the fourth quarter. Kind of took their foot off the gas, but still ended up winning that game by 11 points. And Utah, they have some really, really bad losses on the road. Their average loss on the road, they have 8 of them this season, have come by 17.4 points. So I think a good opportunity for the Clippers to get back on track and stomp the Utah Jazz. Final pick of the night, Jokic.
Yeah, I went Nikola Jokic over 8.5 assists, plus 105 here. So he's gone under the last 3 games, but the last game Jamal Murray did play. But the 2 before that, Russell Westbrook was in the starting lineup. And I think that's significant because Russell Westbrook is kind of one of those guys who steals assists, right? Like Jokic makes a good pass, but Westbrook isn't a knockdown shooter by any means. So Westbrook's kind of making an extra pass, and then he's kind of getting the assists off of Jokic. So the fact that Jamal Murray is back, I really like that for the Nikola Jokic assist prop. And because he's gone under the last 3 games, it's dropped it from 9.5 down to 8.5 here. He's also going against Domantas Sabonis, kind of a matchup that feels, I think, a little bit personal for both players. They're both kind of like those triple-double guys, things like that. I don't think Sabonis can guard him one-on-one by any means in the post. I think the Kings are just going to have to send help to help Sabonis. And when you're sending help, you're opening up potential assists. So I think that also plays, I think the matchup plays well into like the number coming down in assists here. So I went Jokic over 8.5 assists tonight.
Okay, John, a couple of light nights coming up in the NBA for us. I'll do the recap here momentarily, but the NBA Cup final goes down on tomorrow night in Las Vegas. The Thunder favorite by 4.5, total of 215. Against the Bucks. Gonna have to dig into that one. Both of these teams, they really want it. Both teams out for something to prove. So we'll break that down on the show tomorrow. Then Wednesday, there's no NBA games. But I think things will pick right up again later on in the week, headed into the weekend. Then, of course, we have the Christmas Day games on Wednesday. We're going to be doing a big NBA NFL Christmas Day betting special here on Before You Bet. We won't be live on Christmas, but we will be recording it on Christmas Eve. So that's something for you guys to look forward to if you're going to be making some bets on Christmas. So yeah, that will be next week. Let's recap the NFL picks. If you guys missed the top of the show, Justin Jefferson, longest reception over 25.5. DJ Moore over 56.5 receiving yards. Falcons Raiders first half over 22.5, and Bijan Robinson over 27.5 receiving yards. John has this awesome same game parlay, 22-1 pretty much here. Jefferson 120 plus, a Jefferson touchdown, Drake London 80 plus, and a Drake London TD. Couple of indoor games tonight. Hopefully some wide receivers can go off for him and hit that one. In the NBA, couple spreads for me, couple favorites. Heat 4.5, Clippers 8, Bam under 5.5 assists, Cade under 9.5 assists, and Jokic over 8.5 assists. For Jon Metler, that does it for the Monday show. A lot to cover off here. Bowl season, Monday Night Football, doubleheader, NBA Cup action tomorrow. Looking forward to that. So thanks to John and Brad for joining the show today. Jingles, if you're watching at home, we hope you feel better, buddy. You got to rest up here. Christmas next week, 9 days away here, everybody. Producer Mick, great job producing the show today. Thank you very much to our sponsor, BetMGM. Make sure you check them out for all of your sports betting needs. And thank you to all of the great viewers for tuning in today. Best of luck with your bets tonight, and we will catch you guys again tomorrow. Let's go, Heat and Clippers. Woo!